Approximately in May of the year 2000, I was at a court appearance, and all of a sudden I saw the court moving around me, and it was a terrible feeling. I didn't know if I was having a heart attack or what. The following day I went to see my primary care physician, and he indicated that some people had been getting problems with dizziness. He didn't mention vertigo to me. And he said this will probably go away in about a week. Well, of course, it didn't go away in a week. I went to see a specialist, an ENT, and I was at the time residing in Tampa. Now I reside here in Jacksonville. And the ENT also told me that this will disappear. Meanwhile, he did give me some anti-vertigo medication, but this time I was beginning to suspect that I had something more serious with my ear. It was not just a vertigo sensation, but I had tremendous fullness of my ear. When we moved here to Jacksonville, of course, I went to see several specialists. And I was so desperate to try to get some relief, because the situation is that once you get vertigo, you have about a day to recoup from the vertigo after you've taken some medication for it, meaning just anti-vertigo medication. And then you have another 3 days or 2 days in which you practically stay at home and in bed. And then, of course, that starts all over again. This went on for about 10 months, and I was beginning to really feel that I was at the end of my rope. I really didn't have a life of my own. I couldn't drive. I didn't feel safe. Very everyday type of things, such as shaving, became a real problem, because as you move your head, either way, you will immediately feel the dizziness. Showering, shampooing your hair, and so forth was practically a no-no. And I couldn't use my computer because you have to move your head. It was really a very debilitating thing. I had a real feeling that my life was really coming to an end. And it was even more so once you got medical opinions indicating that there was nothing that they could do to help me. I have always been very healthy. In fact, I have never had an operation in my life. And the last time I was in a hospital was when I was about 19 years old. So this was a major thing for me. I was told that the only way to perhaps stop this and get me back to have some quality of life was to go through a surgical procedure, which I don't know the exact name of it, but involve severing the ear nerve, which was no option for me, because that meant that I would be deaf in that ear, and in addition to that, there was no assurance that I will be well. So that, to me, was not an option. And the outlook was not very pleasant. One of the specialists that I consulted, he asked me if I would be interested on a device that it will have some palliative effect, and that apparently had a great deal of success in Europe. I don't recall his exact words, but he indicated it had been used in Europe successfully for a number of years. This was maybe 2 or 3 months before the device became available. I did write to the physician. I asked him if he will consider me for this particular device, and he in turn did write me and asked me to come over and see him. The efficacy of the treatment was almost immediately, because the tube was inserted at the doctor's office. Dr. Denser showed me how to use it, and she provided a treatment right there as she was showing me how to use the equipment. So by the time I got home, I could see the difference. I could see that I was walking straight, and I was getting better hearing on the affected ear, my right ear. When I went up the stairway at my home, I could hear the sounds of my clothing rubbing. You know how clothing rubs against the cloth, or against the other piece of cloth. And then I was able to go that afternoon and walk on the beach. Now, it's significant that I say walk on the beach, because I couldn't walk any more than 3 or 4 blocks without feeling sick. It took me maybe about a month and a half to really gain my strength, but I'm now back to walking 4 miles a day. I not only feel well, but I have been able to function again. I have lost a great deal of weight. My outlook in life was very poor at the time. Certainly has changed. And I did set a goal for myself once I was on the treatment, and that was to go back to work. I work as a retirement job. I work for the courts as an interpreter. It's a very demanding job in the sense that at the time you're in front of a judge and you're interpreting for the court, you're working about 120 words per minute. You have to know all the different vocabulary that's being used. And therefore, I felt that if I was able to do that, I would be back on my way to being normal again. About a month ago, I was able to go back to the court in Tampa, where I have initially worked. And I work a full week. I could have worked more if I wanted to. There were eight-hour days, and there was a day that was a 12-hour day, but absolutely no problem. And of course, it was 500 miles round trip from here to Tampa. I certainly, I will say that this treatment really surprised me. But as far as I'm concerned, it has been very effective, very easy to do. I am now functional and able to work, and I certainly feel a lot better. So I cannot say enough about the equipment.